Welcome and peace and blessings be upon you, dear viewers of Horn of Africa TV. This is the fourth program in the Somali edition. I'm Mohamoud, and today our host, Karolyn Mohamed, will be interviewing His Excellency, Mr. Hassan Galiye, the Director General of the Somali Ministry of Defense. We're broadcasting from Germany and Somalia. I would like to take the opportunity to thank all of our viewers for their support, likes, comments, shares, and subscriptions.
Today's topic is Somalia and the security situation. We would like to focus on some of the challenges and especially opportunities in relation to development. His Excellency, Mr. Hassan Galiye, it is really an honor to have you on the show. Thank you very much for joining us and welcome.
Thank you, Karolyn. It's my pleasure being with you, and I'm happy that you have me in this program.
Thank you very much. Can we please start with an introduction of yourself?
My personal introduction is that I am a former career diplomat of the Somali Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I worked there for that ministry many years. I was also based abroad in West Africa, based in Senegal, with 9 other countries, which were coming under our responsibility. And that's in the past. Then recently, before I assumed this position, I was the Secretary General of a political party, which was called Alliance for the Future Party of Somalia. And this was established almost 2 years ago because we wanted the country to go a multi-party system, which was to replace the tribal system we have now in place.
Yeah.
Previous to that, I was a regional minister in Galmudug. I'm involved in Somali politics since 10 years. I became twice Minister of Fisheries and Ports and so on, and focal point anti-piracy for Galmudug. Then I became the Minister of Livestock, Agriculture, Environment, and all these stuffs. And last year I was presidential candidate, deputy president for Galmudug. And I failed in my bid to be the vice president of Galmudug. And then I just was in my political activities, and until I was appointed to this position a month ago. And it was a sector which I was not very familiar, but this month it was like I was here almost 6 months, something like that. So intensive and so many things to learn.
Yeah.
Once you don't need really to have a special expertise, as long as you have knowledge and you have the sufficient people who have the capacity and that you can support, they can support you, no? So I have good advisors who feel the security lacks, the knowledge of security lack that I have. And I'm trying to do my best to recover this ministry. I don't want to blame anyone, but let's say this Ministry of Defense needs reorganization, structural reorganization. So I found out all these problems they had and the possible solutions within this month. And I'm working with a plan, 6-month plan to change things gradually, because many years of established practices has created some mechanism which are not conducive to have a Somali national army, which is professional and which is at the service of the country and the nation.
Sounds very good. Thank you very much for the introduction. And change is also one of the recurring topics today. So as you might know, in the previous program, we hosted Dr. Werner Fasselabend, the former Minister of Defense for Austria. He mentioned Somalia's huge potential, but said that internal security is a hindrance to investment and development in Somalia. We will touch upon this later as well. So firstly, what have been some of the challenges and successes regarding security in Somalia?
Well, it's a gradual evolution, because if we start from 2000, since the re-establishment of the Republic with the President Abdel Qasim, compared to today, Somalia had made huge progress. But in terms of effective control of the country, nation, unfortunately, 20 years ago, we established a system that didn't favor the country to unite, to go forward, and to reestablish itself like any nation in this world, you know. And that is a tribal system, which it doesn't promote meritocracy. It doesn't. So anyone and also a partition of power, duplication of power, and all this stuff. And I mention this because the politics affects the security of the country. When you have a system which is not conducive to have a unitary state, and you have a system which is there in place to break up this country and to establish regional, like a confederacy. And so it doesn't help to establish the mechanism to have a step functioning state. So it's not the people who were previously here that they were bad, it's that the system they were working in didn't allow them. Even now, this government wanted to change the system, but was not able to do it because of internal pressure and because of also external pressure. So security issues in Somalia have evolved, and now compared to the past, it's really good, but still is very deficient. For example, our army numbers, they increased substantially, but still is not a very professional army. Just few units are professional. Few units are united. I mean that they are made up of all Somali clans and communities, but the majority, they are dominated by some clans. So when politics, they become hot, and these soldiers who were placed in this unit by politicians, by elders, and so on, they are not really very loyal to their country. They are more loyal to their clans. And we have seen it recently in some activities in the country. Even though the whole of the army was loyal to the country, to the government and the country, there were some units who were rebelled and created havoc in the capital and created instability. Yeah. So this is a big issue. The basis of the army need to be refounded. We must have an army which draws its component from all the regions of the country, which is happening, but very gradually, slowly, no? And these units who came through clan system, they need to be retrained, and they need also to be amalgamated into the other units. So we without discriminating, without firing them and so on, we need to recover them, to retrain them, and to include them in these units. So the main challenges, these are the main challenges of the security, the military, and the internal security is all related. The same problems are happening in the other places, also in the other sector of security. To the exception of the National Security Agency, which is they've been already professionalizing and selecting properly and uniting the people and so on. And here there is a kind of line of comfort. You know, when something has been established for a long time, people are resistant to change. They got used to have their share of things just because of a clan weight and not because of contribution of capacity and so on. So these are the main security problem we have is this. Second, we have a problem with, let's say, terrorism. We have some movement to have their own agenda, and they are not helping the country to go forward. And so these are the main challenges. Third challenge is that this Somali government, actually this one in place, and the others, the previous one also, they did their best to recover the country and to gradually, these foreign troops who are here in support format like AMISOM and so on, to gradually leave the country, and the Somali forces take responsibility of their country. But this also is not happening. Many Somalis, they find their interest that these troops stay here, and these troops themselves, they get funding and support and retraining and materials and salaries. So themselves, they are not very willing to abandon Somalia. I mean, when as a foreign force is senior in place and is not really changing too much the situation, and it keeps it in the status quo, then we have to reconsider these things. Secondly, this is our country. We have to assume responsibility for our country. Yeah. Unfortunately, some Somalis, they don't agree with that, and they still continue with this mentality of being dependent on foreign troops, of being dependent on money from foreign countries, and so on. I'm afraid to say that we lost our dignity. We were people of dignity in the past. Today, we are beggars in the Horn of Africa. Yeah.
Well, when it comes to that, I think people of Somalia are still, if I look at it from my German perspective, very much people of dignity. And when you say that, actually, one of the saying comes to my mind. I don't know how it is exactly said in Somali, but even when death comes, wipe your mouth. So like always keep your dignity. That's always what I combine or like what I remember with Somalia. So
yeah, you're right. We are sorry.
No, please continue.
I mean, the reality is this: we have people who keep their dignity and so on, but the majority of our country is not like that today. Unfortunately, we live here, we are there, we are part of the system, we are part of, and we cannot hide our failures. Once we recognize our failures, we can help ourselves out. But if we just deny it, I'm not really happy to say that. I'm very, very upset about this recognition. But Somalia is a country which is totally dependent. So, but has got great potential, human potential, economic potential, and in the future, it can be really one of the players in the Horn of Africa. But to achieve that, which is focused. We must have a leadership which is focused toward that end. So once you are not focused and you look here, you look there, and you are indecisive, so things won't evolve. And regionally, we have neighboring countries, for example, they want to continue the state of dependence that Somalia is. So because it is beneficial to their interests. Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't want a Somalia that can be working and be in equal status with them, and in the future might challenge them. Yeah, even though the Somalis now have changed, there is an ideal of Horn of Africa united, sharing resources, defense, and money, and even a kind of EU between these Horn of Africa countries. So Somalis now, they are very in favor of that. The nationalism of the past and these kinds of things is being diluted. But everyone is what it is. It's got its own history. And the ambition of many Somalis today is part of being regionally integrated between Eritrea, Ethiopia, Djibouti, Somalia, Sudan, even Kenya, Uganda, South Sudan. All these countries, they should be part of this organization. And we could be really potentially a region which is vibrant and moving forward.
Yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to that happening. You already touched upon some of the next points for my next question.
Sorry.
So, no, don't worry. It was actually a really, really good transition to the next question. So very well done. So the government collapse induced by externally funded, trained and equipped militias were quickly followed by infighting within these same militias, tribal conflict, as we already mentioned and figured out, ideological conflicts, and all of those are followed by humanitarian crises. But thankfully, in recent years, there have been major strides towards peace. So there has been also positive engagement from countries such as Turkey and China, making huge investments without a military presence in the area. One of the outcomes of the recent G7 summit in the UK was to engage positively in the development sector in Africa. Do you think they will put this into practice, and what can Western and oil-rich Arab nations do to transform themselves from a negative into a positive influence?
Okay, in terms of Somalia, for example, investment and so on, actually nothing much has been done, except by Turkey, who has heavily invested in Somalia, in its recovery, in its security, in the port of Mogadishu, and so in the hospital. Actually, the only reliable hospital today, international standard, is the Turkish-funded hospital, Erdogan Hospital in Mogadishu. So they trained over the 5 years. Now, gradually, Somali doctors are replacing them. And they did really a very good job. So the most reliable country Somalia has is Turkey today, as in terms of support, tangible support. These other countries, Europeans like EU, United States, and so on, they do contribute also greatly with financial contribution. For example, there is the EU unit which is training the Somali army. It's called the EUTMs, European Union Training Mission to Somalia. So they are there to help recover the Somali army, to equip it, and so on. And they are doing also a very good job. But a country which today, if there are some problems, so we can rely on 1%, 100% almost is Turkey. And I say this because of the job, the great job they are doing. The units who are trained here, they are taken to Turkey for further training. And even now they started a female unit, but paramilitary force from the police, not from the army yet. There is an exclusive unit, anti-terrorism unit, fully made of females. 2 days ago, they were taken to Turkey after finishing their local training. They'll be taken to Turkey for 6 months. And all these things, we are thankful to Turkey because of their involvement. But Somalia, it has got laws and facilities and so on for investment. It promotes investment. It's the most open country. Anyone can come to Somalia, for example, visa on arrival for everyone, and you can invest as you like. But we still have at the central bank level regulation with the banking. The banking system is just new, starting. There were hawalas before. Now they are all converting into banks, serious banks, and some of them they are really doing very well. And unfortunately, investment from foreigners is minimal because of insecurity. Yeah, because of insecurity. But Somalia has got great potential. Some Turkish companies have invested in spite of insecurity. They have invested in the agriculture. They have invested in small manufacturing. They have invested in hotels. The best hotel in Mogadishu now belongs to a Turkish company.
Yeah.
It's called the Dekale Hotel. So, which is very good. We have now Turkish engineers, architects who are working privately, coming to Somalia because of opportunities, because there is no hostility toward them, even though some of them they were targeted by these organizations and some of them died. They help us with the support of Qatar to build the 2 vital roads, and they took the subcontract to build these roads, and also Qatar has invested in the infrastructure of the roads. So there are many countries who are helping Somalia, but commitment. We have one country, and I'm not afraid to say that, which is fully backing our government and our people, independently of whoever is there at the time, And while the other things we have seen it is being a little bit politicized. For example, the support that some Western countries were given to Somalia were reduced drastically to pressure the government to go to the elections, for example. And so when your help is conditional, and the assistance and friendship you receive is conditional to certain things, so there is a coercive measure into this relationship now, and which is not good. So anyway, Somalia is not bad the way it is today. Is moving forward. We are very happy compared to. I came back to Somalia 2011. I remember Mogadishu, the central government was just in an area of 1 kilometer, maybe. That's it, in the whole of Mogadishu. There was a lot of fighting. There was no light. There is no electricity. The roads were all broken down. There was no law of order, whatever. Today, the country is moving forward. We are gradually recovering our borders, the airspace, and the sea, and the regional borders. First troops 5 months ago, they went to the Kenyan border. Since the 30 years, there was no Somali soldier at that border. So progression, things are moving positively forward. And once we compare to 2011, for example, we have some urgency to change things and to go forward. But we have to be also retrospective, know from where we come from. Yeah. Only 11 years ago, here it was a mess, it was hopeless. And today we have a system functioning. We have alternance of power between groups, whatever is the system. Still, there is an alternance of power. Economically, the country has improved from being supported 100%. Today, the government is getting taxes, not the whole country, but some particular sectors. So there is an income. And before 100%, the budget of the government was based on foreign aid. Today is based on 70%. So it is very, very, very positive. The army, for example, is more equipped, more professionalized, is moving forward, but we have internal issues that we need to resolve. So Somalia is not hopeless as many people they want to depict it, but has got great potential, great huge resources, and if it resolves these issues, Somalia is going to be really, it's not the beacon, one of the beacons of the Horn of Africa. Very positive about that.
Yes, you already mentioned the investment and the resources. That's actually going to tie in with my next question. So when Mohamed and me meet potential business partners and investors, we often unfairly compare Somalia with the early days of the United States and jokingly call Somalia the Wild West of the East. This is just to emphasize the risk, but also the high reward of having a first mover advantage in a country emerging from a civil war, which is happening with Somalia right now. We now see many countries competing to earn Somalia's favor. But private individuals, as you already said, the Turkish engineers coming to Somalia and working there also want to have a slice of the Somalia cake. So it is in everyone's interest to legally and ethically engage the vast untapped natural resources and other opportunities. So my question now is, how can the following 3 types of investors work together to achieve this? Number 1 would be local Somali investors. Then number 2, diaspora Somali investors. And number 3, non-Somali investors.
Okay, first of all, let's start with the local Somali investors. Somalia in the past, it had a manufacturing industry that was totally dismantled by the civil war. Today, we don't manufacture anything. We are an importing country. So just few things. For example, the small factories now, they are being established. The thing is, there is the law, but there is no incentive for the local investors to open up factories instead of just being importers. Because legally, the government doesn't help them in terms of financing, tax breaks, and protection. No country can develop if it doesn't protect its own industry, especially when it is embryonic, just restarting. So they need help from the government, even if the government doesn't have money to give them, but at least should exonerate X years some key sectors that the government should identify, should exonerate these companies from any taxation, for example, or tax breaks or some facilities and so on. What happens in Somalia is the opposite. They are heavily taxed. So whoever makes a small factory that some goods are being imported, they cannot compete because the scale, this is a small factory and these goods are imported by huge factories and so on. And at the end of the day, they promote the import. They don't tax it too much. So these goods, they come very cheap. But that's one thing. So that's a lack of incentive. I'm sure that if the government makes a plan to help the local factories and so on, small industry and so on, augment production so they can employ people, So they take off weight from the mass of young people that every year they come out from schools or from universities and so on, they are unemployed. They cannot go, they cannot all be employed by the government. So the army, the police, there is a limit. The civil servants. So it's the private sector that should absorb it. And if the private sector is not helped and not facilitated, then it won't develop. So this is a clock of I remember there were an Egyptian company. Before I joined this ministry, I was working in capacity of advisor in other places. So there was an Egyptian company who came, wanted to invest in the telecom and the hotel sector. So they made a study previously, and they came to find out if the study really corresponded to the reality on the ground. And the two biggest employers today and the biggest company we have in Somalia, one is Mohamoud, which is the telecom, and the other one is the HoA. And they said, the budget, the capacity of these two companies combined in Egypt, we just build a mall, for example. There is no comparison yet. So our market also is very small. Our companies, they are not fomented also to invest abroad. Some of them, because of their original connotation when they were established to some religious movements, they are being, let's say, discriminated. For example, in some neighboring country today, I don't want to mention his name, but in neighboring country, they were opening up their telecom sector. And these Somali companies, they wanted to bid, and they were, let's say, refused, let's say. They were not allowed to bid because of the support they might have on the financing they might have or relationship they might have with some religious groups. So deliberately, and they are very efficient, and they could be investing in many other places. And in the telecom Somalia, I went to neighboring countries, is the top of the top, really, in terms of price and in terms of quality. Recently, I was in a neighboring country, and I was really amazed. I said, we are backward in many things. But in telecom, we are number one in the region. And the capacity of our companies, they are small because they just stay in this niche market and they compete between themselves. And they also push the companies that they will give them capacity, even in partnership, they could do it. There is also on their side a change of mentality. So that's on the local their problems. The diaspora, they do not invest because it happens the same thing. There is no a body. There is in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, it's called the Office for Diaspora Affairs, something like that. And the former president also, he had in his office a kind of advisor for diaspora affairs, Hassan Galiye. So the diaspora are very important. The country is really supported by the diaspora in terms of money and so on, transactions and so on. So yearly they send to Somalia from our diaspora around $2 billion, which is far away away from the aid that we receive. And if this could be really taxed, could be helped, the government could really benefit. Now it's just benefiting for the input into the economy directly in terms of support to families or small investment, hawalas, and so on. So our diaspora is vital for us, but it's not given the due attention that should be given. It should be a ministry for diaspora affairs, for example, and help them to not only to be interested in their money and their capacity, also help them to reestablish in the country, facilitate them to have land and to reintegrate in the country. I mean, we have many Somali experts in many fields that can help the government. And they wouldn't take exorbitant salaries. Some even they would work freely. And this is something, for example, I named 3 days ago an advisor at the ministry because we don't have. diaspora section, but I mean, sometimes the diaspora help our soldiers who are wounded. They collect money when the government and foreign countries are unable to do anything for them. So they grew through the internet, GoFunding, and so on, and the diaspora really contributes and help these soldiers to get treatment abroad. And I just named an advisor for diaspora engagement with the military. So you will know him, you will get in touch with you. So my ministry is doing, he knows the importance has the diaspora in terms of support, economic support, moral support, image, and so on. And in terms of these soldiers that sometimes they don't get treatment locally, and the government is unable to take them abroad, and friendly countries also get tired because Somalia has been affected mostly by these explosives, you know, the explosions and so on, attacks. So, third, foreign investment. Foreign investment legislation is in place. Let's say that our big companies, they were not very happy because they didn't want small market, that bigger companies with bigger capital, bigger capacity, better connections in the world, like Chinese, like others. And for example, I remember 4 years ago, Safaricom, you know, in Kenya, they wanted to enter the Somali market. So let's say they were blocked somehow, indirectly. Legally, they could have invested, but they were blocked because of the legislation, because of no transparency. There should be a very straightforward ticket, you know, the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, whoever, be very straightforward, minimum paperwork. Here, there are a lot of paperwork. They are doing something now because you can go online. If you go to the Ministry of Commerce, Somali investment, you will see they are trying to expedite, but still there is a bureaucracy. To register in Somalia, a company, for a local, for example, is $300, plus cost and so on, notary, total $700 to $1,000. It depends what you do. For a foreigner, if you want to attract foreigners, it's triple almost. Yeah. So you are not really, you have a law of investment for fomenting foreign investment. At the same time, when you want to register a company, exorbitant prices being asked of you. So it's security, the bad situation of the security added to this. For example, in Kenya, to register a company is $60. And it's straightforward. You just go online. There is a database of companies and so on. You check, and it's straightforward. You receive it without any problems. And ourselves is $300 plus that, $1,000 total. So this is not conducive to investment. So the foreign investment, they need security, they need clear-cut laws, and they need incentive for repatriation of their capital and so on, and facilitate their installation in the country. Then we should create free trade areas like they did in Dubai and other places, yeah, where these companies are located, that can be secured, that they can work out from there. Like now China did in Djibouti, for example, they did a huge free trade area. They want to be the hub of commerce in the Horn of Africa, concentrated in Djibouti. So, and everyone has got their own interests. For example, ourselves, we would like to be one of the hubs in the Horn of Africa. Eritrea also, they will do their own, and others will do, etc., etc. So we will be competing in a healthy way. But Somalia, the laws they have now is not conducive to foreign investment. It's not conducive also the security we have. So these are the three questions you asked me, and I hope I answered properly.
Yes, thank you very much. That was very insightful.
A bit lengthy. It was a bit lengthy, my answer, sorry.
No, everything was good. I think there are like a lot of information that are really valuable, and I hope that a lot of people will take on some of those advices, and that we see a positive change for Somalia in the future, which will also bring me to my last question to sum it up. So Somalia is in a very geostrategic location, and in recent years there have been major changes in the Horn of Africa. It is well known that the current Somali government has really developed the Somali military capability and morale. So do you think that the Somali military can defend its territorial borders?
The Somali government, is true, has made a lot of changes, especially during the 4 years, the last 4 years of this government. It has made a huge change in the military in terms of equipment, training, and so on. We can say that if there is a political will, Somalia can, because now in the election period and so on, we tend to politicize. If your unit is taken from one place, is taken to another place, then they just find out political connotation, motives, and so on. I remember I was not part of the system now, but I remember people really, some of the Somalis, I was amazed. They're saying that why the Somali troops are taken to the border with Kenya, and where should we take them? Yeah, they be taken there because it's their border. 30 years our soldiers were away from this border. So if there is now the opportunity to do it, we should do it. And all the bordering areas should be done. So there is a will on the part of the government, then things can happen. If there is no will to do that, then nothing will happen. So we can defend our borders in some places, in other places we can't. Because also there are some regions who, instead of having police, they've been trying to mingle their paramilitary forces into the army, which creates a lot of confusion. Some of our international partners, they've been encouraging this. And the policy of the ministry and of the government is that the militias, I mean, these local police forces, they are local police forces, they are regional forces, they cannot in no way be mixed up, and they cannot in no way have the same kind of training and the weapons, et cetera, et cetera. But still, some foreign countries, they are doing that. They are training regional forces to the level of military. So, and that should be stopped immediately. Regionals, they have only right to their own police, yeah, and work with the federal police. And wherever there is a need of military, the military should occupy. We have two levels federal system we adopted temporarily, and we have the regional administrations. So regional administration, one of the big problems we are confronted is they're trying to be just like a confederate state, having their own army, and so on and so on and so on. And that is unacceptable. So the problem for the army to deploy to these regions is for these political regions, because these regions, they will create problems and they don't allow the army to be deployed. I said that some foreign countries who support Somalia, they encourage that there is a mixed up with the Somali army and the regional police, because constitutionally, these regions, they only have a right to have their own police forces. In military terms and so on, this is federal level, and only central government can be dealing with these matters. But these regions, since they've been for many years in chaos, they have assumed functions of the army, some of them. They have established their mini army. Some of their units, they have been integrated into the Somali National Army, but still there is resistance, because there is this practice that they want to be semi and independent, for example. They want to have their own kind of army. So they resist, they think that their power, they will be curtailed by the army, no? So they resisted. And the army cannot go there shooting. So it must go there gradually, willingly. And if there is the need and things are really necessary, then we should not be guests in our own house, you know. These regional forces, they are regional forces, and they should limit to themselves to regional politics and things and security, and work in collaboration with the police. Border areas, and this stuff, defense, this is the prerogative of the army, and not these regions. They should not have a say, absolutely. And the government of Somalia has resisted this and is continuing to resist this. So
there is a lot of development to be done in Somalia, but we already see a very positive change. So on that note, thank you very much, His Excellency, Mr. Galiye. It was a pleasure to have you on our show. Thank you very much for watching. I look forward to see you on the next program. Peace and goodbye. Thank you very much for having me. I'm sorry if there was some lengthy explanation I went through. I didn't want to bother your spectators or followers. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure. It was an honor to explain you a little bit what's going on. It's a big thing. And I just touched some things. So thank you very much for having me again, to Horn of Africa TV, and to yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you.